My name's Kelley Smith, founder of Kilroy VTG, and this is my Scotch Parlor story. So Kilroy Vintage is my compilation of just vintage rings, t-shirts, memorabilia. It's a lot of military stuff from that era into kind of Vietnam. And I'm really into collecting rings and little novelty items, so. The name pays homage to the little moniker from World War II that US soldiers used to graffiti everywhere. It's kind of debated how the origins of this guy, but supposedly he was drawn by James Kilroy, who was a welder on some boats that were used in World War II. And U.S. servicemen would kind of see him drawn and like mimic it and kind of adopted it. And then it was some of the first graffiti in the U.S. They'd write it all over everything and kind of put their mark across the world. So they'd go somewhere like China or Japan and they'd kind of see this dude and be like, oh, our guys were here or whatever. And I just always thought that was cool. What really makes me into vintage stuff, and I was telling Rick just that my grandfather was in the Korean War, and I have a memory of him having this sword. It was like kind of like a samurai sword, but it was Korean that he got from the Korean War, like off somebody supposedly. And I wasn't really allowed to like touch it and stuff because I was like 8 years old at the time, but I thought it was the coolest thing ever. And just that he had something that old like really resonated with me. Like, wow, that's from 50, 60 years ago. Like, that's crazy. So this is pretty awesome. This is a liner for a helmet, Vietnam era, that somebody would probably just wear like a hat, and they personalized it with all this stuff. So like people that are into the 70s and stuff have probably seen some of these before. So these are like late 60s, early 70s patches. Caution, Coors powered. And then this is all hand done. So LSRA, the YME is pretty cool. That's in like traditional tattooing a lot. Da Nang, Vietnam, 1967, 1968. So they'd get jackets embroidered in country there. Just had like souvenir shops in Thailand and Vietnam. Yeah, I kind of connect with all the military and old school stuff with my grandpa just because I wasn't old enough to hear his war stories. And by the time I was, he kind of had dementia and passed away. But I always like wanted to kind of connect with him. And I can kind of put him in someone's shoes that like gets these souvenir items or anything like that. So that always helps resonate with me. Probably like early 1900s, late 1800s double head. This one's really sick. Real emerald eyes. So that was all like hand carved out of wax and then they cast it. I've never seen another one of these, so that's a pretty special one. Mexican biker rings, these are cool. Really sought after and collectible. Classic skull and crossbones, that's sweet. These were basically marketed to American tourists in Mexico in the 30s to like the 60s. So these are some rings out of the Kilroy Modern Goods line, and these are newly made rings. Both of these I reproduced out of some old vintage rings, so this one's cool. Spinning mask, laugh now, cry later ring. Pretty sweet, cool little novelty ring. And then this one's like classic little Playboy bunny, dragons on the side. Call that one the Lucky Bunny ring. And then this one, a friend of mine in South Korea actually made this, of penetrate rings. And this is designed after a memento mori ring that I found that I no longer have, unfortunately. But he was able to reproduce this by just looking at a photo. Been doing the Instagram for about 3 years. It started as just me selling some old hats and stuff and evolved into this over time. I just developed like the aesthetic that I liked. But
A lot of times I'll sell stuff straight off Instagram, which is cool, like rings and stuff. Now I'm kind of more just showcasing things and having some cool stuff to look at, but and then I'll direct people to my website, but that's kind of how I run my business now.
I do what I do because I really like collecting and cataloging different things that I find of interest. I'd probably do it even if I wasn't selling anything. It's just what I've done for a long time, and I really dig it. Finding the origins of pieces and finding things that people copied in jewelry from like the 40s and then somebody else replicated in the 60s, like all that's really cool to me. But I do like communicating with people that are excited about what I'm doing, and when I can bring them a cool ring or they can buy something off my site that they like, that's really awesome to me. A lot of the stuff I do, I get really good feedback on, and people are really happy with it, and I do really enjoy making people happy for having like something cool that they wouldn't find normally, and that's a cool feeling.